And glowing, her phone streaming to Facebook Live as fireworks lit up the summer sky behind her. It was July 4th in Fort Worth, Texas, and Latasha Hyman, or Tasha, as everyone called her, had every reason to smile. Her beauty shop, Slay by Shay, was thriving. Her fiancé had just made her laugh on camera. And the block party? Full of joy, laughter, and community. It looked like a dream. But within seconds, that dream would turn into a nightmare. Gunshots rang out. Her phone screen went black. Chaos erupted. And just like that, Tasha was gone. Her light, snuffed out in front of hundreds watching live. This wasn't just a tragic accident. This was a chilling reminder that even joy can become a target, and even the safest moments can become scenes of devastation. Welcome to the channel, and if you're new here, like, share, and subscribe. We don't just tell stories. We shine light on the lives behind the headlines. The victims, the families, the communities forever changed. This is the heartbreaking, real-life story of Tasha Hyman. A woman who inspired, who hustled, who loved deeply, and who died senselessly, far too soon. Let's begin. Before the flashing cameras. Before the police lights. Before that chilling Facebook Live broadcast that left a city stunned, there was just Tasha. Tasha Hyman was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas, a city that wore its southern pride like a badge of honor. Fort Worth was the kind of place where the sun baked the streets until they shimmered in the heat, where neighbors waved from their porches and knew your name by heart. It was a city filled with layered stories, joy, struggle, resilience, and Tasha's story was woven right into its fabric. She grew up in a tightly knit community, the kind where block parties were the highlight of the summer, where church Sundays were less about ritual and more about family. At home, the sound of laughter mingled with the smell of Sunday pot roast, the walls thick with memories passed down from generation to generation. Her mother was a rock, a faith-driven woman whose discipline was tempered with tenderness. She wasn't just raising a daughter, she was raising a queen. Every lesson she taught was underscored with love, reminding Tasha that no matter the world's chaos, her worth was unshakable. Her father was quieter but no less present, the strong, steady force who always made sure she believed in herself when self-doubt crept in. Siblings circled around her like a protective army, some tied by blood, others by bonds just as strong. From a young age, Tasha radiated something rare, a spark you couldn't help but notice. Her laughter wasn't just a sound, it was a force of nature, contagious and unapologetic. She had style before she even knew the word. A teenage Tasha didn't just follow trends. She made them, turning the simplest outfits into statements. Whether it was a pair of jeans and a drugstore lip gloss or a custom-designed dress, her confidence invited people in, never pushing them away. But it wasn't just her appearance that made Tasha unforgettable. It was her heart, big enough to hold the world. She remembered your birthday when you forgot it yourself. She was the cousin who took younger girls under her wing, teaching them that beauty wasn't just about the mirror but about how you treated the world. Tasha didn't just dream, she pursued. One dream stood above the rest, creating a sanctuary of beauty that went deeper than skin. And so, Slay by Shay was born. What started as a small idea blossomed into one of Fort Worth's most cherished beauty spots. Tasha wasn't just applying makeup, she was weaving confidence, healing, and sisterhood into every brushstroke. Women came to her not just for transformation, but for validation. Slay by Shay became a refuge, a place where stories were shared, tears wiped away, and hopes rekindled. Her business grew rapidly, but Tasha's success was never measured by money or numbers. It was about impact. She mentored dozens of young artists, sharing every secret she learned, and she made time for community workshops that empowered girls who felt invisible. Her influence rippled far beyond Fort Worth city limits. At the center of Tasha's life was Tommy Howard. Their love wasn't perfect, far from it. It was raw, complicated, sometimes loud and messy, but fiercely loyal. Tommy was her protector, her confidant, the man who could make her belly laugh after the hardest days. They dreamed loudly together of a family, of growing their businesses, of leaving a legacy rooted in love. They had faced hardships, Tommy's heartbreak over a lost fiancée to cancer, the pressures of running a business, the weight of dreams deferred, but together they carved out hope. In the months leading to that fateful day, everything seemed to align. Slay by Shay was thriving. Tasha was planning expansion. She spoke excitedly of a trip to Miami, a rare moment to breathe and recharge. July 4th was meant to be a celebration, a joyful pause to honor freedom, family, and how far she'd come. Instead, it marked the end of a vibrant life, silenced in a way that shocked a community and left loved ones grappling with grief too raw to face. The heat of a July afternoon in Fort Worth, Texas, settled like a heavy blanket over the city. Streets buzzed with activity as families prepared for Independence Day celebrations. Tasha Hyman was no exception. She had spent the morning decorating her backyard, stringing up fairy lights, and prepping trays of her favorite finger foods, smoked wings, deviled eggs, and fresh watermelon slices. The scent of barbecue wafted through the neighborhood, blending with the distant crackle of early firework tests. Tasha's phone buzzed intermittently, messages from clients, friends, and family lighting up the screen. Her salon, Slay by Shay, had been thriving, and today was a chance to breathe, reconnect, and celebrate with loved ones. She slipped on a crimson blouse that perfectly complemented her skin tone, her makeup flawlessly done, radiating confidence and joy. By early evening, the block party was in full swing. Neighbors mingled on porches, children darted between yards, and music pulsed from speakers set up on driveways. The smell of grilling meat mingled with laughter, creating a comforting soundtrack of summer. Tasha moved effortlessly through the crowd, exchanging hugs and warm hellos. Her smile was magnetic, lighting up every face she passed. At one point, she pulled out her phone and started a Facebook live stream. "Happy 4th, y'all," she said, her voice bright and warm. "Look at my beautiful neighborhood, the food, the people. We're just out here celebrating life." Her camera panned over the crowd. Kids chasing sparklers, friends sharing stories, couples dancing. The comments flooded in. "You look amazing, Tasha. Love the energy. Wish I was there." She laughed, the sound genuine and carefree, unaware that the moments she captured would soon become a painful memory for many. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, something shifted. The easy laughter gave way to sharp voices. A dispute erupted nearby, neighbors hushed, eyes darting. Tasha noticed too, concern flickering across her face. Her protective instinct stirred, but she brushed it off, hoping it was a misunderstanding. Suddenly, a series of loud bangs shattered the night's calm. Gunshots ringing out, echoing off houses and fences. Screams followed as people scattered, chaos erupting. Tasha's last moments were frantic and tragic. She tried to shield others, but the violence struck indiscriminately. By the time the sirens wailed and the flashing lights bathed the street in red and blue, Tasha lay motionless. The community was left in stunned silence, a joyous day torn apart in an instant. As the sun disappeared behind the Fort Worth skyline, a heavy silence settled over the neighborhood where Tasha Hyman's life was so violently taken. What had begun as a day full of laughter, love, and celebration now became a haunting memory etched into every corner of that block. Neighbors stood in disbelief, many holding each other, some crying openly, as the reality of what had just happened set in. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, their urgency clashing with the somber mood. Paramedics worked frantically, but the wound was fatal. Tasha's spirit, bright and vibrant just hours before, was now silenced forever. Police began securing the area, interviewing witnesses who were still trembling, trying to piece together a narrative from the chaos. News of the shooting spread quickly out. Social media lit up with disbelief and grief. The Facebook Live video, once a joyous snapshot of a community celebration, became a chilling testament to how quickly life can change. Comments poured in, strangers and friends alike sharing condolences, memories, and heartbreak. Tasha's family was devastated. Her mother, who had raised her with unwavering faith and love, was inconsolable. Siblings gathered, each wrestling with the unbearable weight of loss. Friends struggled to process the cruel end to a life so full of promise and kindness. But amid the grief, a determination grew, a drive to seek justice, to honor Tasha's memory, and to hold accountable the forces behind this tragedy. In the immediate hours following the shooting, Fort Worth police launched a full-scale investigation. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, interviewing anyone who had been present during the 4th of July block party. They collected security footage from nearby homes and businesses, hoping to find clear evidence that could identify the shooter. The Facebook Live video, while initially a source of community connection, quickly became a crucial piece of evidence. Investigators meticulously analyzed the footage, looking for clues in the background, faces, vehicles, and any suspicious activity. Social media posts from witnesses were also scrutinized, with tips flooding in from concerned residents. Police identified a suspect, Tommy Howard, the man known to be Latasha's boyfriend. The couple's relationship had been a complex one, filled with love but marred by occasional tension. Authorities worked to understand the motive behind the shooting, whether it was a crime of passion, a tragic accident, or something more calculated. Forensic teams processed the crime scene, gathering ballistic evidence and fingerprints. They spoke with witnesses who described hearing arguments earlier in the evening, and some noted Tommy's sudden disappearance after the shots were fired. As the pieces of the puzzle came together, it became clear this was not a random act of violence, but a devastating personal tragedy. It was just after 4 a.m. on July 5, 2023, when a homicide detective with the Fort Worth Police Department knocked gently on the door of Tasha Hyman's mother's house. The silence in the house was shattered by grief, screams that would rattle any soul. Tasha's mother already knew. She'd seen it unfold, live, just like thousands of others. But now, it was official. Her daughter was gone, pronounced dead at the scene. The bullet had pierced her chest, hitting her heart, and the man they believed pulled the trigger? Her daughter's boyfriend, Tommy Howard, was nowhere to be found. The city of Fort Worth hadn't felt still like this in years. Within hours, news of the murder had gripped the city like a chokehold. On every block, whether in barber shops, diners, churches, or beauty salons, there was only one name on people's lips: Tasha Hyman. Her photos spread across social media like wildfire. A radiant smile, perfect hair, the selfie from earlier that day. And beneath those photos, heartbreak spilled into every comment section. Not Tasha. God, please no. She did my makeup last month. She told me I was enough. She was just live. How? And right beside her name, another. Tommy Howard. Detectives wasted no time. By sunrise, Fort Worth PD's homicide unit had issued a bolo, "Be on the lookout," for 39-year-old Tommy Howard, last seen wearing a red Nike hoodie, black jeans, and white Air Max sneakers. His vehicle, a silver Dodge Charger with tinted windows and expired tags, hadn't been seen at his apartment since the night before. They didn't even have to call his phone. It was found dumped just blocks from the shooting, battery ripped out, SIM card snapped in half. To police, that sent a message loud and clear. This wasn't panic. This was premeditated. He was disappearing. By 7 a.m., the Fugitive Apprehension Unit had been activated. They alerted the Texas Department of Public Safety and notified law enforcement agencies across state lines. Cameras at major tolls, gas stations, rest stops, anything with surveillance, were flagged. Inside the squad room, one wall was transformed into a manhunt map. Investigators pinned potential routes, dotted with red markers and photos of Tommy from social media. At 9:17 a.m., a tip came in from a trucker heading east on I-20. He thought he saw the Charger speeding, weaving through traffic. The vehicle exited toward Tyler, Texas. Patrol cars flooded the area. But by the time they arrived, the Charger was gone again. Back in Fort Worth, Tasha's family had gathered in her mother's living room. Her younger sister, Destiny, sat curled up in the corner, staring blankly at the TV, still playing the looped footage of the Facebook Live video. Her uncle, Marcus, paced the room, fist clenched. "I'll find him myself," he muttered, over and over. Tasha's mother, curled into the crook of her older brother's arms, just kept whispering. She was smiling. She was smiling. And then he. The family wasn't just grieving. They were terrified. Because they didn't know where Tommy was. And if he could kill the woman he supposedly loved on live video, with children nearby, who was safe? Meanwhile, at Slay by Shay, Tasha's boutique salon, friends and former clients had already begun to show up. Someone brought candles. Another brought red roses, her favorite. By noon, a line had formed outside the storefront. Nobody spoke much. There were tears. There were hugs. Someone started a soft prayer circle. The sidewalk, once a runway for confident women walking out after their glam sessions, had become a sanctuary of grief. Inside, her chair still sat in the same spot. Foundation brushes and eyeshadow palettes remained neatly stacked. Her last appointment had been scheduled for 5 p.m. the night before. She never made it. The windows were decorated with sticky notes. Messages of love. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." "Fly high, Queen." "Justice." 4. Tasha. That afternoon, authorities confirmed what many had feared. Tommy Howard had fled the city. At 2:46 p.m., U.S. Marshals confirmed that Howard's car had been spotted via license plate scanner on Interstate 10 heading toward Louisiana. He was officially declared a fugitive. Police turned to the public. A press conference was called at 5 p.m. Detective Carmen Rivas stood at the podium, surrounded by officers and Tasha's family members, their eyes red from crying. Her voice was steady, firm. "This is not just another case. Latasha Hyman was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a business leader in our city. She was murdered in broad daylight, in front of children, and in front of thousands online. If you see this man, Tommy Howard, do not approach him. Call 911. Let's bring him in and give her family the justice they deserve." Behind her, a large poster displayed Tommy's mugshot. Below it, "Wanted for murder." A $25,000 reward was offered. Anonymous tips were encouraged. And that night, tips started pouring in. It was July 6th, not even a full 48 hours after Tasha Hyman was gunned down on Facebook Live, and the temperature in Fort Worth was 98 degrees. But across police precincts, the heat wasn't from the sun. It was from the pressure. Public outrage was exploding online. News anchors were broadcasting live from outside Slay by Shay. Protesters were marching with signs reading #Justice for Tasha and #Find Tommy Howard. And the Fort Worth Police Department knew. If they didn't catch Tommy soon, faith in the system would collapse right along with this grieving community. But the clock was ticking, and the marshals had a lead. July 6th, 11:42 a.m. A tip came in through the anonymous hotline. A woman, who didn't give her name, said she was almost sure she saw Tommy Howard outside a rundown gas station in Beaumont, Texas, less than 30 miles from the Louisiana border. He was pumping gas into a silver Dodge Charger, wearing a hoodie pulled tight around his face. She only caught a glimpse, but she noticed two things. He had a very distinct tattoo on the back of his hand, a red star. And he looked around like a man being hunted. She had no idea she was seconds from history. Police traced the gas station surveillance, and there it was, frame by frame, a man in a hoodie, fidgeting nervously, gloves on despite the summer heat. A red star tattoo on his hand. The plates matched. It was Tommy. He had switched out his license plate with one from a stolen vehicle, but hadn't realized the car itself had already been flagged. That same afternoon, a task force was deployed. For 13 p.m., Beaumont, Texas, two unmarked vehicles pulled into a small residential block lined with rundown houses and boarded windows. The air was thick with humidity and tension. Tommy's Dodge Charger was parked halfway on a curb outside a gray duplex, the windows covered with trash bags, likely to block out light. Inside the duplex, according to U.S. Marshals notes later released to the public, Tommy was pacing. He had a burner phone, a duffel bag full of clothes, a loaded Glock 19, and a letter. It was handwritten, scrawled in ink with shaky penmanship. It read, "I didn't mean to hurt her, but I couldn't take it anymore. I was drowning, and she kept filming like it was a joke. I'm sorry. Tell my mom I love her." But there would be no suicide that day. No final escape. 4:47 p.m. Flashbangs cracked through the Beaumont sky. Officers stormed the duplex with shields up, guns drawn, shouting, "U.S. Marshals, come out with your hands up." There was a pause. Silence. Then, a single voice shouted back, "Okay, okay, don't shoot." Tommy walked out, shirtless, sweating, trembling. He dropped to his knees on the front lawn and placed his hands behind his head. He was arrested on the spot. Murder in the first degree, unlawful possession of a firearm, fleeing prosecution, federal warrant violations, and more. They found the Glock inside a shoebox under the sink. They also found something else. A broken iPhone. Its screen was shattered. But inside, when investigators extracted the data, was a chilling trail of what Tasha likely never saw coming. The text messages stunned everyone. Starting 2 weeks before the shooting, Tommy had been spiraling. June 19th, 2023. "You keep playing with me on that phone. I swear, Tasha, you want me to lose it." June 25th, 2023. "You going live again talking slick? Bet." July 3rd, 2023. "I ain't one of these clowns you can clown in public. That's your last warning." Each message was more unhinged than the last. Voice notes filled with anger, paranoia, crying. His tone shifting between desperate begging and outright threats. But one thing stood out. The night before the shooting, Tommy had typed but never sent a message. "If you want to be famous that bad." Ami controlling, crazy, a walking red flag. It appeared Tommy had been tracking every move she made online. Every smile, every video, every friend request. But the most haunting find? A note in his iPhone's Notes app, titled, "Her Last Life," written like a script. "She gone smile, talk slick, act like she winning. I'll be calm. I'll wait." Then boom. Camera catch everything. Now they'll know what pain feel like. He'd written it days before the murder. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment argument. It was planned. When the news of Tommy's arrest broke, Fort Worth exhaled, but only just a little. Outside Tasha's shop, a woman broke down in tears when she saw the headline scroll across her phone. "Thank you, God. Now she can rest." But the truth? Justice was still miles away. Because what followed would be the start of a long, brutal legal battle. And for Tasha's family, nothing, not even an arrest, could erase what they'd seen live, what the kids had witnessed, what Tommy had destroyed. The trial of Tommy Howard wasn't just another case, it was a reckoning. A storm of heartbreak, fury, and long overdue justice that gripped Fort Worth and echoed far beyond. From the very first court date, the halls outside the Tarrant County Courthouse were swarming with reporters, camera crews, and protesters. Some held photos of Tasha Hyman. Others carried signs that said things like, "Believe black women," and "Protect her even if you're angry." This wasn't just about Tasha. It was about every woman who had smiled through pain, who had gone live to mask the bruises, emotional or physical, and never got to tell her side of the story. And inside, that courtroom was packed. January 9th, 2024, arraignment day. It had been 6 months since Tasha's murder. Tommy Howard walked into the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, shackled at the wrists and ankles. His hair had grown out, his face thinner, darker under the eyes. But when he looked at the crowd of reporters and grieving family members, he barely flinched. When asked how he would plead to the charge of first-degree murder, he stood straight, jaw clenched, and muttered, "Not guilty." Gasps echoed across the room. Tasha's mother, Miss Carolyn Hyman, clutched her rosary and whispered a prayer through gritted teeth. Her daughter was smiling on Facebook Live. Seconds later, she was bleeding out on the floor of her own home. And yet the man responsible, said he was innocent, but the state was ready, and they were coming with everything. The state of Texas versus Tommy Howard officially began in March 2024. The prosecution laid out its case in brutal, chronological order. They presented the Facebook Live video. The jury saw it, every second. Tasha smiling. Tommy's voice yelling off-screen. The sudden turn of the camera. The flash of the gun. The screams. They introduced forensic evidence. Tommy's fingerprints were on the firearm. His DNA was found on the handle and trigger. The bullet recovered from Tasha's body matched the same Glock discovered in the Beaumont duplex. They read text messages. Angry, obsessive, jealous. Threats masked as frustration. Long rants about respect and how she made him look stupid. And they revealed that haunting note titled, Her Last Life, written days before the murder, outlining exactly what would happen. The prosecution had a phrase they kept repeating during opening arguments. This wasn't rage. It was rehearsal. Tommy's attorney tried a very different angle. They argued that the murder was not premeditated, that Tommy had been mentally unraveling for months, suffering from untreated bipolar disorder and anxiety. They claimed he snapped under emotional duress during a toxic, codependent relationship. He wasn't a cold-blooded killer, they said. He was a broken man who made a fatal mistake. They also introduced private text from Tasha. Messages that showed arguments, name-calling, mutual jealousy. They suggested Tasha had been emotionally manipulative and humiliated him publicly through her live streams. This was a tragic situation fueled by social media, mental health, and mutual pain, the defense attorney told the jury. But that argument didn't land well, especially after the next round of witnesses took the stand. First was Tasha's mother, Ms. Carolyn Hyman. She stood, hands shaking, and held up a photo of 8-year-old Tasha in a church dress. That little girl, she said, didn't just grow up to be beautiful, she grew up to be a blessing to others. And he took that away. I watched her die with the world watching. The jury wept. It took the jury just 4 hours to reach a decision. On March 19, 2024, in a silent courtroom packed with media, family, and friends, the foreperson stood and read. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tommy Howard, guilty of murder in the first degree. Miss Carolyn collapsed into her son's arms. Some cheered. Some cried. Others just sat still, relieved, exhausted, broken. Tommy showed no emotion. He looked straight ahead as the judge delivered the sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. In the weeks that followed, Fort Worth slowly began to heal. Murals of Tasha appeared around the city, on beauty salons, community centers, and even the side of a bus. A foundation was launched in her name to support women escaping domestic violence. Slay by Shay was reopened, run now by Tasha's younger cousin, Maya, who was studying cosmetology and promised to carry the torch. And every July 4th, people gather near her old block, not just to remember the day she died, but to celebrate the life she lived. Tasha Hyman's story did not end with that heartbreaking July evening. In many ways, it only began to ripple out, touching lives, awakening hearts, and igniting conversations far beyond Fort Worth. Her story became a call for awareness, a plea to listen more closely when someone is hurting, and a reminder that every life matters. And this is where you come in. If there's one thing Tasha's life teaches us, it's the power of connection, the power of speaking up, the power of showing up for yourself and for others. If you or someone you know is struggling in a relationship or feeling trapped by fear or silence, reach out. There are resources, people ready to listen, and paths to safety. And if you've been moved by Tasha's story, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us spread awareness so that no more lives are lost to preventable tragedies. Together, we can honor Tasha's memory, not just by mourning her loss, but by being the change she believed in. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay strong, and keep the conversation going.